Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Ask Mary Anything Within Reason. It's great to be here with you. Yeah, there was a lot going on this weekend because, that's just the way it is these days. So I want to get right to your questions. I know a lot of you have thoughts about the obscenity of this military parade that happened in our capital. Plus, of course, the massive No King's Day protests throughout the country and the political assassination and attempted assassination in Minnesota. So, yeah, a lot going on. So, let's get right to your questions. From Philip, question, Mary, thank you for helping us stay sane. Have you heard about the upcoming documentary Beam Me Up Sulu? In the 80s, some film students got George Takei to participate in their project. I have not heard about that, but I have some Trek friends, so I want to know more about that. Beam me up, Sulu. Hopefully, that's actually a thing because I want to see it. So if I do find out anything, I will let you guys know when I do. From Janina, question. I know Donald is an awful person, but sometimes I feel sorry for him because I know that people with narcissistic personality disorder suffer deep inside. Do you feel the same? Is that okay? I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to tell somebody not to have compassion for another human being. Okay. That having been said, I have no compassion for him. Why? Well, everybody has choices they can make in their life. And I think sometimes people are just bad people. While it's true that sure, his being a narcissist and other things make it harder for him to be a good person, I suppose. I don't think blaming his behavior on that lets him off the hook entirely as if he's somebody with no agency whatsoever. And in fact, when I was writing my first book, Too Much and Never Enough, I had to think a lot about the psychological dynamics in my family, the developmental psychology of my dad and Donald and the other siblings. And what the conclusion I came to, especially with Donald and with my Aunt Marianne, was that I had a huge amount of compassion for the children they were, but none whatsoever for the adults they chose to become. So that's what I would say. Again, if you have compassion for him, that's fair because he is. I mean, he's a destroyed human being. He's miserable. But look at all of the immense, incalculable harm he has done and continues to do to other people and to our planet and to our country. So yeah, I don't have any compassion for him whatsoever. And that does not give me any pleasure. So. Jean, hello, everyone. Happy Father's Day to everyone in the community. Thank you, Jean, for reminding me. Oops. Sorry. For obvious reasons, perhaps I don't. Father's Day is not something I think about too much, but happy Father's Day, guys. Hope you had a very good day. Carsy Cat. I saw some photos from marches on blue skies. Sadly, I see very few news outlets reporting on the protests. I haven't done a massive search of media outlets and how they've reported, but my sense is that there was much more coverage about the protests than there normally was, but there was still more coverage of the obscenity in DC, which is problematic, especially since I don't think it's problematic if the coverage reflects the obscenity of it, right? Reflects just what a damaging spectacle it was for this country, for how the world sees us. But that wasn't the bulk of the coverage. And I think think it was the New York Times. There was even an article about how Melania dressed for the event, which made me, quite frankly, sick. But at least, the protests did get more coverage than they have been getting, so that's good. And let's hope that that's a trend that continues. Barbara, question. How do you think Donald is privately handling his low turnout and our massive turnout? I know you say humiliation is something that is very hard for him to deal with. He's not going to deal with it well. He will act out in ways that seem unrelated, because, of course, he's never going to admit publicly that. I think he even denied that there were any protests. Like, that's how defended he is. But it will be interesting to see what it is he lashes out about. And I think even he couldn't deny that the turnout in DC was abysmal. But he's surrounded by people whose job it is to protect him from such knowledge. In other words, he'll see it with his own eyes, but then they'll convince him that it wasn't really true, that it was the greatest turnout in American history. That's what he does. So what worries me is where his displeasure, or how and where his displeasure will manifest itself. And again, I've been a bit unplugged today. So I haven't done enough research yet, but my sense is that things are escalating a little bit in LA. There's a curfew now, which is not a good sign, especially if you consider that all of that is a direct result of Donald overstepping, federalizing the National Guard, and calling in active military against American citizens who were peacefully protesting. So. Astra Strauss, comment. I predicted he will have a terrible time in Canada during G7. Nobody likes him. That would be such a shame. Okay. Let's hope so. He will, because, well, it's hard to say. If the G6 of the G7 play their cards right, they would give him a miserable time. But again, I just don't think enough people have the stomach for confronting him in the way he needs to be confronted. I mean, he'll be miserable there because he doesn't like working, and there won't be a dictatorial autocrat there to kiss his ass. And, that's never fun for him. Barbara, comment. Our turnout yesterday was amazing. Good job, everyone. Yes, it was. Some people have sent me photographs, which we will be showing you tomorrow during Mary Trump Live at 6 p.m. Eastern. So again, anybody who has pictures or videos, please send them along to info@Mary Trump Media. We really want to see. The pictures I've seen so far have been awesome. And, from very small towns to very big cities. And yeah, it was great. Jean, question. Did Donald freeze up like Mitch McConnell when he was at the podium last night for his birthday disaster? I have a confession. I didn't watch any of it because I kind of value what's left of my sanity. I have to be honest. I don't see the utility in subjecting ourselves to this. Like, we knew what was going to happen. I mean, I will look at clips for sure. I will look at that. It's very possible. I mean, we know, to the extent that we can know these things, that he's had some issues, shall we say, whether or not something like that happened. And I'm not a neurologist or a neuropsychologist anyway, so I would not be the person to make such assessments. But part of the reason I did not check in, I was actually going to check in on the obscenities in DC. And the reason I didn't, honestly, is because after the news coming out of Minnesota, I just didn't have the ability, I guess, is the simplest way to put it. I just couldn't deal. And I think that's fair. I think sometimes we just have to acknowledge our limits and not force the issue, because what good does that do anybody, right? Just a quick update, from what we know so far, at least 12.5 million people showed up to protest. That's good. It needs to be more. We need at least 1% of the population showing up at these things. So that would be about 36 million. So oh wait, is that true? Not 1%. There's some percentage. Forgive me, I can't remember what exactly the percentage is. But 12.5 million in a population of 360 million is just not enough. But we'll get there. Again, they're getting bigger all the time. So that's good. Carol, does anybody have other names for Donald? I do Donald Stump. I just call him Donald. Why? Well, because I always have. And I don't know. For me, and again, I think it's just because of my relationship with him, to him. There's nothing. I've always called him that. His nephews always called him that. Like, he was never Uncle Donald. He was always just Donald. So there's like, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not making it up to get under his skin, but he hates it. So makes me happy. But yeah, anybody else has some creative nicknames for Donald? I just wish everybody would call him Donald, quite frankly. That'd make me happy. Donna, comment, I love that the big, beautiful parade was a big, horrible flop. Yeah, and let's hope that the big, abominable bill will also be a big, horrible flop. Ellie, question, wasn't the parade hilarious? The squeaky tank, Donald's expression, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I heard that it was just badly done. And considering how much money was spent, which again is a huge problem, that he was allowed to spend this money, that he was allowed to bring in such a big arsenal, that so many armed service members had to participate in this. It was just an utter disgrace. But given that, Donald's whole claim to fame is that he's a TV guy and he understands spectacle, which I quite frankly have never understood. He has the aesthetic sense of a slug. He has no concept of what looks good, or I don't know. Maybe I am not the best person to judge these things either. But from what I understand, it was very, very poorly done. And, the fact that it had to start early because there were threats of lightning, it was great. But it still happened. And that's the bigger issue to me. Julia. Oh, holy cow, Julia. That's fantastic. Julia gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Awesome. Thank you so much. Jean, question. Mary, did you notice that everyone who attended the parade with Taco were bored out of their minds? I did. Again, I didn't notice because I didn't watch it, but I saw a couple of images, and one just showed how few people were there. And another one, did show people that just sort of listlessly, milling around. And how could you not be bored? You're literally just watching people marching down and tanks rolling down. And Donald has to be one of the most boring people on the planet. Also, from what I understand, there were no speakers set up along the parade route. So people far away from the reviewing stand couldn't hear anything. Well done. Forever Dogs. Question, Mary, can you please talk about the number of immigrants that have been deported from Bush all the way to Biden Every president deported more immigrants than Donald has, only they did it by the laws. I mean, I can't talk to you about the numbers because I don't know them off the top of my head. I'm gonna talk about that in this context. I think in some sense, when Donald's deportation numbers are compared to Biden's, it's used in an unfavorable way. In other words, Donald promised he was going to deport more people, and he's failing to do that. Biden's numbers were better, really better. I think I think the Democratic Party should be ashamed of itself that they continue to try to tack to the right to Republicans on the issue of immigration. It quite frankly makes me sick. The fact that Joe Biden deported more people than Donald Trump is managing to deport is a stain on his presidency and his legacy. I am looking forward to the day when a Democrat will have the guts to stand up and say, hey, why don't we try to treat immigrants with humanity? Why don't we try to recognize that immigrants are coming to this country? One, because historically, America has held out the promise of being a beacon of hope and possibility. And two, that people coming to this country to escape in many circumstances, horrific conditions in their home countries, are not coming here to steal from us or commit crimes. They're coming here to make their lives better, to find gainful employment, and to become American and to make this country better. Can we maybe try that for once? Can we maybe accept people into this country and give them the jobs they seek legally and help them become citizens and help them become even more constructive members of society? Because let's face it, people who come to this country to find a better life and get work are more likely not to commit crimes and are more likely to pay taxes. And Donald Trump is a fucking criminal and doesn't pay taxes at all. So they are, by definition, better members of the society than that guy ever was or will be. So I've never, ever, ever understood the Democrats' attitudes towards immigration or law enforcement. And I'll say it again, it makes me sick. Sorry. Especially in this environment, you cannot tell me that the part of what's happening wasn't co-created by the Democrats' inability to be better on immigration. Jade 4249 super sticker. Thank you so much, Jade. That's awesome. Brand, thank you as always. Question: never ever anywhere told Grandpa and Donald's story? Sorry. Brent, I don't quite understand the question, but if you can clarify it, I will try to get back to it later. But also, in the meantime, thank you so much. Diane, question. I remember Donald saying that he isn't even taking a presidential salary. I doubt that. Is that true? Okay. I don't know about this time around. During the first administration, he would make a big show of writing a check in the amount of whatever his salary was going to be. I think the presidential salary is something, it may be different now, but it's around $470,000 a year, which is, when you consider that they have no expenses at all, that's actually a lot of money. However, think about how much this criminal, this grifter, has made off of being president, and his handing out this comparatively paltry sum is kind of despicable. So he gets the benefit of pretending that he's being charitable. In the meantime, he's robbing all of us blind. So no credit. Karahuaska, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Much appreciated. Comment: about 3,000 of us protested yesterday, and we combined it with a food drive for the Akron Canton Regional Food Bank. Reductions in funding start this month. They feed supplement millions of people yearly. That's fantastic. I love that idea. That's very creative and an amazing use of resources and human and otherwise. So more people should start doing that. And again, it just reminds me that this is a huge problem we're facing. So many non-governmental organizations, so many nonprofits have depended upon government grants, etc. And so many of them are being canceled. So all of these organizations that didn't need to do that much fundraising are now in desperate need. So organizations that counted a lot on fundraising because maybe they didn't get so much money from the government are in competition with other nonprofits and NGOs that they would not normally have been in competition with. So there's much less to go around for people. And it's a huge, huge problem. So we need to get really creative in our solutions to that problem. Donna, member for a month. Awesome. Question. Hi, Mary. I hope you're doing well. Do you think that Donald will take retribution against all the states for his horrible birthday weekend? Yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm concerned because it always happens, right? We never know how it's going to play out, but he has a bad day. He suffers some humiliating loss and it shows up in some way or another. So, well, this week is going to be interesting. We'll have to stay vigilant for that. Alexandra, question. Did Donald's mother actually really pour mashed potatoes over his head as a kid because he was bullying his siblings? No, that is fake news. No, okay. So I'll tell this briefly because I've told this story a lot, but I'm very proud of this story because Donald was probably 5. His little brother Robert was a year and a half younger. They were the 2 youngest kids, and Donald was tormenting Rob, my uncle Rob, who's the youngest, just bullying him, teasing him, whatever. And Robert, who was like a little, like 3.5 or 4, was crying and screaming and sobbing, and nobody, including Donald's mother or older siblings, could get him to stop. And my dad was like 7.5 years older than Donald. My Aunt Marianne was almost 9.5 years older than Donald. And there was literally nothing that would make him stop. And my grandmother was trying to get dinner on the table, and she brought out, there were 5 kids and 2 parents and a grandparent. So that's 8 people for dinner. So she brought this huge bowl of mashed potatoes and put it on the table. She's trying to get everything ready before my grandfather got home from work. And Donald's bullying and Robert screaming was driving everybody absolutely up the wall. So finally, my dad picked up that bowl of mashed potatoes and dumped it on Donald's head. And that got him to stop. It also introduced Donald to humiliation, which ended up in the long term being probably a really bad thing. But I'm still very proud of my father for that because my dad was a really good guy. He was much older. He didn't want to do anything that was going to hurt Donald. So he came up with this perfect nonviolent solution to the problem because mashed potatoes can hurt you. It still ended up having some serious repercussions, however. Oh, well, still a great story. Mighty Cheryl, thank you, as always, another Mary Trump Media membership gift. Awesome. Hey, we have a new member, Bathtub Mary. Welcome. Awesome to have you here. Mighty Cheryl, thank you again. Oh, cool. Comment, Mary's Kitten Fee. Next adoption event is July 12th. If you can get out to Suffolk County, all cats, kittens come with a goodie bag, including treats. Oh, yeah, that Mary Trump Media travel kitten is in the cards. It's just a question of when. I have to be in one place for more than 3 days before travel kitten can become part of the family, but we're working on it. So thank you so much, Mighty Cheryl. That's fantastic. 6-6, question. Will Donald get the United States of America into a war with Iran? He seems to be completely out of the loop here. He seems to have no influence whatsoever with Benjamin Netanyahu, who understands that, Donald is an ally. They're basically made in the same mold, but he's also an idiot and he's easily manipulable. And Netanyahu's going to do whatever Netanyahu wants to do. The bigger issue for me is that this entire, well, maybe not the entire situation. I don't want to overstate it because I certainly not even, I'm not an expert in this field. However, Netanyahu's rationale for what's happening right now, for Israel's attacks against Iran is to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon, which would have been impossible if Donald Trump hadn't taken the United States out of the JCPOA, which was an agreement that took years to craft, that made it impossible, that made it, well, maybe not impossible, but in which Iran agreed not to develop nuclear weapons for certain other concessions. By pulling us out of the JCPOA, Iran had no incentive anymore not to build a nuclear weapon. So thank you, Donald, once again, for being such an utter ignoramus that you made the world a more dangerous place for everybody, and here we are. So whether or not we get into a direct conflict with Iran, it's not clear to me that Donald even knows what's going on, quite frankly. But if anybody can get us into an accidental war, it's him. Diane, thanks so very much. Dragon training fee. Cool. Question. Was the LA protest the only one that had clashes with police military? As far as I know, yes. I mean, first of all, it's the only city in which the military has been deployed, or to which the military has been deployed. And again, I think because of the presence of the military, because of the presence of a federalized National Guard, that increases tension, that increases the likelihood that there are going to be clashes. No matter how peaceful the protest may have been. Let's see. Lizzie Beth, thank you so much. Question. Do you think Donald is as upset as people say about small crowds in DC and huge ones elsewhere? Again, it's hard to say because it's never clear to me how accurate his information is, because he's surrounded by people who have no interest in telling him the truth about anything, pretty much, but certainly not about his tiny crowds in support of him and the huge crowds in opposition to him. But to the extent that he does know, yes, he's very, very, very upset, because he's the thinnest skinned person I've ever known, and he cannot handle it when things don't go his way, which is why we should have tried harder to make sure things don't go his way. So, Melanie, a new member, thanks so much, Melanie. It is wonderful to have you here. Dodie, super sticker, thank you so much, Dodie, as always. Maria, another super sticker, thanks so much for that. Awesome. Shauna, another super sticker. Super stickers out in force. Thank you so much. Denise, member for month, fantastic. Comment, I call him the dumpster. It is the old play on his nickname, the Trumpster. Oh, you know what? I didn't know he had that nickname. Dumpster works for me. Yeah, he is. He's like a walking dumpster fire, basically. So, yeah, I am completely down with that. I will continue to call him Donald. Eduardo, let's see. Question. With his power over Congress, the judiciary, and the military, can Donald attempt a coup and stay in power for a long time? Okay, this is my take. He already has. He attempted a self-coup, an auto coup. He incited an insurrection. He planned and incited an insurrection on January 6th. And we found out on November, I think 5th, 2024, that the insurrection succeeded. So it's already happened. The question is it permanent? That we don't yet know. So, and I mean, I think it's important to remember, like, what exactly that means. A man who incited an insurrection against his own government won a presidential election, despite the fact that right there in the Constitution, in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, it says very clearly that any official who has participated in an insurrection against the United States of America is no longer eligible to run for office. So basically, we don't have Section 3 of the 14th Amendment anymore, and now he's gunning for Sections 1 and 2. So will he have the capability, considering, as you said, he controls the Republican Party and the Republicans in Congress have ceded their constitutional responsibilities to the executive branch? There are many, many members of the judiciary that act. I mean, just look at his personal pocket judge, Aileen Cannon in Florida. They act contrary to the Constitution, and in order to empower him further, or in certain circumstances, like Cannon, they act like they're Donald's personal defense attorneys. So, given all of that, will he have the capabilities to make sure there's not an election next year? And that's I mean, there are many things troubling about the situation in Los Angeles, but one of the most troubling situations, one of the most troubling things about the situation in Los Angeles is that it could very well be a dry run. Because this is what Donald does, right? He pushes the envelope to see how far he can go. If it doesn't work, he pulls back, he tries something else. If it does work, he pushes the envelope more and he encroaches more. So he got away with federalizing the National Guard. He got away with deploying active military in an American city. It's insanity. So will he then find some excuse? Oh, and sorry, in a situation created by him, these were peaceful protests that did not require anything beyond local law enforcement. So he created this situation in which, actually, let me rephrase it. He didn't create the situation. He manufactured a myth about what was actually going on to convince people on the right that Los Angeles was in such turmoil that the local law enforcement and the governor and the mayor couldn't handle it, so they needed federal assistance. That's the myth that Donald Trump and the right-wing media ecosystem created in order to justify these incursions into the rights of Californians and Americans. So, is that a blueprint? Will he then manufacture another myth about a situation in which there's a protest against him and have people incite violence or be so provocative that violence is inevitable? And then what? Well, he's already federalized the National Guard. He's already deployed active military. Well, maybe the next step is what? Martial law. Once you've declared martial law, you can do anything. That's what we need to be careful of. And that is why I'm telling you, at some point, the only solution, or the only way we get out of this, or the least harmful way, is if we shut it all down. That's what's going to have to happen. Armand, question. Will the global damage to the United States reputation be irreparable at the end of his term? Coming from the EU, I want to love the US, but can't get over the fact he got majority vote. It raises doubts in minds about the psyche there. Personal opinion, the global damage is done and irreparable, at least for a few generations, because the American people have proven themselves to be completely unreliable, and they chose to put this despicable, incompetent, cruel, dangerous, depraved Yeah, the list could go on and on, person back into power, knowing everything he'd done. So, yeah, we don't deserve to come back from that anytime soon, and the only way we come back from it is if we get leaders in power who are very, very, very serious. Not just about undoing the damage, but starting from scratch and creating this country. Not recreating, not rebuilding, but creating it, building it from an entirely different perspective and position. That's the only way. America can only undo this if America puts leaders in power who have the wherewithal, and the vision to turn America into an actual democracy for the first time in its history. So that'll be interesting. Sage of Suffering. Question. Would you rather silence the MAGAs or amplify the resistance? I'm not really interested in silencing anybody. I don't amplify them. I mean, I know, I don't need to hear from them, but they should be able to say whatever they want. I believe in the First Amendment, even if like the whole of it, not just the religious freedom part of it. But I don't think those voices should be amplified. They should not be silenced. Yes, the resistance needs to be amplified, that's for sure. And it needs to be louder too. Liberté. Question. If the Dems get the majority at the midterms, can they do anything about ousting the likes of Patel, Hegseth, Noam, etc.? They can impeach them. But I don't think, unless they get, okay, so majority at the midterms, they'd have to get the majority in both houses of Congress. Well, let me rephrase. They'd have to get the majority in the House. They'd have to get a supermajority in the Senate. And I don't think there's any universe in which that's possible. So, no. But if they do get the majority in the House, they need to start playing hardball with the ways in which these agencies are funded. That they have the power to do. Plus, hearings. Every day, there should be different investigation into the horrors being committed by these people. Gerald, question. I'm concerned the No Kings was well organized. The concern is, are they tracking us? Will our names end up on an enemies list? I don't mean to be cynical. I just think that this is a reality. They're tracking us anyway. Every time we log on, every time we use our phone, every time we sign up for something on social media, that's just the way it is. So, were they tracking people who showed up to protest? I don't know. But here's what I'll say. They put all of us on an enemies list. Some of us are already on one, let's be real. But if they put all of us on one, then good luck. Good luck. There are tens and tens of millions of us. All right. The more of us there are, the less afraid we need to be. I mean, not that we need to be afraid, but you know what I'm saying. The safer it is for us. Liberté, again, thank you so very much for that. Again. Question. Oh, wait, no, I already did that one. But still, thank you again. You definitely don't need to hear my answer about that again, though. Pam, awesome. Thank you so very much. That's very generous of you. Comment. Thank you for standing up for working immigrants. Neither party seems to be interested in legislation. I know, and it makes me insane. The Democrats have a massive opportunity here, and they just keep blowing it. And it's just, it's bad in terms of the optics of it and the legislative part of it, but just as human beings, it's just mind-blowing to me. So I don't understand people who don't stand up for working immigrants. And also, one more thing, anybody who refers to the sometimes back-breaking work immigrants do as unskilled labor makes me very angry. because the skill it takes to do the jobs they do is skills most of us do not have. So anyway. Vincent gifted 1 Meritron Media membership. Awesome. Thank you so much, Vincent. And Sheila 3444 also gifted 1 Meritron Media membership. Nice. Thank you so very much. James, super sticker. Thanks so much, James. Sage of Suffering. Thank you so much. Question: how far do you think the South Africans will go to get a President Vance? Peter Thiel's got him wrapped around his finger. They will go very, very far. But the thing is, they would require a lot of cheating because J.D. Vance is a vile human being with no charisma whatsoever, and nobody's going to vote for him. That's my thought. But I don't put it past them to try. So we need to be careful and realize that, with all of their power influence, we can't be sanguine about it. That's for sure. Faith, another super sticker. Thank you so much, Faith. James, thank you. I think I might have done that already, but if not, thank you. Dawn, thank you so much. Question: did you see one of the journalists that was Australian and got shot by a rubber bullet? And did you hear down in Florida, a white guy ran over people at the protest and DeSantis will allow it? Yes, I did see that. It's troubling if journalists are targeted, are injured just doing their jobs by covering these protests. But the most disturbing thing about that was that clearly, I believe it was a police officer, but I'm not 100% sure. Whoever it was that shot that rubber bullet at that journalist did it very intentionally, like literally aimed that gun right at that reporter. It was chilling. And yes, Ron DeSantis has said, and why he gets to do this and isn't like an accessory to murder is beyond me. Yep, if you are in Florida and peaceful protesters are bothering you, you can run them over with your car. Why is that okay? Why is he allowed to have any power? Because clearly he's a sociopath. But I guess that's like de rigueur right now. If you want to be a Republican politician, you have to be a sociopath. It's all the rage. Sean, a new member. Awesome. Welcome. New York Giants for life. Okay. Thank you so very much for that. Comment: with MAGA extremists in the military and other law agencies like the police, it's a question. How easy would it be for Donald to declare martial law and take over? Not as easy as you think, but because of the chain of command and because there are many people at the higher echelons, certainly in the military, who are not okay with what's going on. Plus retired military. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be very concerned, and it doesn't mean that the Democrats shouldn't be doing more to depoliticize the military. It is deeply troubling that at practically every army base on the planet, Fox is the only news station playing. Like, why? Why is that okay? Why are they playing news stations at all? Like, what is that? What is that? Anyway, we have a lot of work to do. Let's put it that way. Kelly, wow, Kelly, thank you so much. Kelly gifted 5 Meritron Media memberships. Awesome. Peacekeep 1965 also gifted 5 Meritron Media memberships. Fantastic. Thank you so much. You guys are on a roll. Mounian, a super sticker. Thank you very much. That's incredibly generous of you. Mary, a new member. Welcome. Cloud Dancer. Sorry. Cloud Dancer, thank you so very, very much. Question: can you point to one thing where Donald is failing? All I'm saying is him prevailing in courts and against the U.S. Constitution. He's actually losing a lot in court. So don't give up hope there. It's just taking too long, which is awful because a lot of damage is being done in the meantime. He's failing with the messaging. He's failing to make his case to the American people. Again, to the extent that's going to matter, we'll have to see. That's why we need a very robust and insistent and constant opposition from us, but also from our elected officials. Also, he's a complete failure as a human being, and he hates his life. So that's good. All right. Um, sometimes the NSA just wants to end the show early. I'm just kidding. I don't know what happened, but I'm back. Basically, what I was going to say, that does it for us tonight. So I'm back to say that again. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I've missed doing this. I know last week was the first one back from my being away for 2 or 3 weeks. So it is great to be back and have you here. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube, streaming on Twitter, and on my Substack, The Good in Us, to everybody listening to the podcast, all of our new members, everybody who gifted new memberships. That's awesome. To our fantastic super stickers, everybody giving us gifts. You guys are amazing. You keep this place going. To our amazing moderators, and just remember, the moderators just do this because they believe in it, and it's not easy work. So thank them, please. Uh, just want to remind you, the easiest way to support us is subscribe to our channel. It's free, and it really helps. Also, we have videos dropping every day that are pre-recorded, and in addition to all the lives. So if you like them and share them and comment them, that helps us a lot with YouTube. And check out the new paid membership tiers, because I really think you guys are gonna get a kick out of that. And obviously, to my team, but tonight especially to Lexi, who's sitting in for Mercedes. Thanks, Lex, for everything, and we will see you tomorrow night for Mary Trump Live at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, for Mary Trump Live. And the Nerd Avengers, it's new time. It's not that new anymore, but for those of you who didn't know, the Nerd Avengers are now at 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. Okay, guys, thank you so much again, and I will see you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.